and this is the other thing I was thinking, like one of my big questions about like just big picture questions is why is so much of the traffic mobile? And I'd be interested in your feedback on that. Like, just what is happening in our society, what is happening with the technology that makes it grow. But I think that a big part of your traffic does come from social media. Is that right? Like Facebook?
If you look at our refers, our number one refer is organic traffic. So that means people are searching for something in
Okay.
Google or one of the other platforms,
Right.
and they're finding us. And they're finding us because of local SEO.
Right.
Why it's mobile, I think, is a broader global
Trend.
scenario trend in that
Right.
just people have phones and they're on their phones.
Right.
You want to keep them. So then you get into user experience and how do you make a site stickier? And we just implemented with our hometown was more stories like this. That's at the bottom. So as you're scrolling, it pops at the very bottom. It's not intrusive. It's not a pop-up ad, but it shows, other things coming up in the news or events.
Right.
And we like that. It's actually, we noticed that we're having a higher rate of page views per session on time. So you see it there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Seems to be working pretty good because we get a report from you guys as to how many people click on that.
Right.
Along with our podcast. So we believe that that's been a helpful enhancement to our platform for mobile.
Right. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought this up. I actually wasn't planning on talking about this, but yeah, this is something that we designed specifically with mobile in mind, and with your feedback, made it more user friendly and more attractive. But this is good. If you click on that top tab there, more news, then it takes you down to the bottom.
Right.
So these articles exist at the bottom no matter what, but we're trying to drag people into it a little bit more or direct them to it. With this pop-up so that they don't have to go all the way to the bottom to see the related stories. They can see the top two. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thought. I just want to make one comment, I guess, on what you just said though. I think part of what's happening is that like you said, they're on mobile. Well, they're on mobile because all the apps are getting really good. Like the Facebook app, I'm sure, is the most popular way that people access Facebook now. And probably more people searching on Google's app on their phone than on their computer. So there's like this general trend in society. And but what you said that's key is that they're on mobile, so we've got to keep them there. We've got to make the mobile site good just to basically stay up on par with what they're using, and the ways that they're coming in.
Right.
And then these types of things are designed to keep them on site, recommending other related stories based on the content of this one. And so then let's talk a little bit about the audio, I think. This is one really unique way that you're serving readers on the go. You've got your playlist and your player. Are you really tracking those stats in terms of like how well it's performing on the playlist versus the player?
You bet, because this is one of my favorite things about our
I thought so.
I believe we were one of the first adopters.
You were.
Adoptees of speech services. And I love it. And next month, we'll probably be launching our live podcast or live shows.
Sweet.
So we got two platforms.
Okay.
To explain to your folks is one is what you're looking at here at that player. That's the audible stories on SignalsAZ.
Right.
And then you guys helped us configure it so that with one click of the button in the back end of the website, I send this audible story to our podcast platform. Right. And our podcast platform is now published on all the major platforms, whether it's Pandora, Spotify, Deezer. It goes on. I think there's 20 or 30.
Right.
And we track both our podcast downloads as well as our audible stories downloads on SignalsAZ.
Right.
And now, without a lot, to be honest with you, because right now 99% of our audibles and podcasts or the text to speech services, the automated. And we're getting about 2,000 downloads a month just from that. We're launching our live shows with real people probably next month, because we have an advertiser now that's now sponsoring both our audible stories on SignalsAZ as well as our podcasts. So now we have the budget to go to live shows.
Awesome. Okay. Very cool. So those live shows will be what, like slightly longer, like 20 minutes?
Slightly longer, conversational, topical, whether it's updates from there, which is the start of our live shows. They were already doing it. I believe what we're going to do is create a podcast from our events coming this weekend, because we have that weekly newsletter that we monetize. That's mostly viewed on mobile. And we've habituated our readers and listeners to tune in Thursdays. Every Thursday morning, like clockwork, our newsletter comes out. But our newsletter really starts with the events this weekend, weather this weekend, and then from there it goes into the top news stories. So what we're going to do is create an events this weekend podcast that'll also include top stories of the week. Is where we're going to start, because that's where people already are. And then we'll look at our analytics to determine what we want to include on our podcast. And there's some other very hyper local issues going on that we want to talk about in our live shows.
Nice. Yeah, I really think that you've done it in a way that I hope all publishers will approach this. Some started with the live podcast and then they added audio articles. That's very rare. I think most people are going to get started like you did, where it's just the audio articles, and then you get the mayor doing a show for you. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's such a win-win, because he knows, obviously, you've got his audience, but he'll produce the content for you. So, you're giving him the exposure for the content, and then take that into other more even
more
specialized.
More specialized stuff. The text to speech is super simple and it's good. There's some slight limitations, but haven't blocked me. I'll sometimes reconfigure a written article for text to speech, because a link or something. But other than that, it just takes like a couple seconds to review an article, see if it would bode well for text to speech. And then we run it, and it keeps growing. And I think people are just accustomed to automated speech because it's getting so good.
Yeah, it really is. And I think a lot of people have picked up on the fact that it's at least the same voice as like the Wall Street Journal, or, the biggest brands out there. They're using similar tools as us, but we're trying to take it to the next level.